Bruce Lowry Chevrolet is celebrating 100 years of family ownership and giving you the best deal on your next vehicle. From the 2022 Chevy Silverado Crew Cab with 1.9% APR for well-qualified buyers, to the 2022 Chevy Equinox with 0% APR or $1,000 cash allowance. Come see us at 711 Southwest Loop 820 in Fort Worth or visit BruceLowryChevrolet.com. Bruce Lowry Chevrolet. Find new roads. Hey everybody, Kevin Crouch with Ellis County Weather here, and I am once again here with Mr. John Paul Dineen. He is, of course, a local farmer who's actually been doing a lot of media lately, so I appreciate him spending some time with me. John Paul and I have known each other for a long time. Our families have known each other forever. And I can definitely say that when it comes to matters of farming and ranching, John Paul Dineen is not only a local expert, but really on the state level, I think that he kind of holds that mantle. We talked in the fall, or in the spring rather, about how we were behind on rain at that time. And we were looking down the barrel at what was probably going to be a pretty terrible summer. So Mr. Dineen, first of all, thank you for joining me. And if you could just kind of tell me from that point to now, what have you had to do to kind of adjust what you've been doing to kind of keep track of your operations with such a dramatic drought situation?
Sure. Well, I appreciate you letting me be here with you today and to share. It's always good to get to chat with you. Wish we were talking about better weather conditions. You know, we talked, like I say, back in May, in one of those reports that I gave that you had mentioned. I had talked about, you know, folks that are in farming and ranching for kind of many years. Sometimes they just get kind of an upset feeling in their stomach when a certain weather pattern kind of sets in, and that's kind of what was going on back in May. We just weren't feeling real good about the rain that we had up to that point. We've been dry through October, and by May, you know, rain starts to kind of slow down in this part of Texas. So now we're talking about August the 1st. Normally, it is supposed to be hot and dry August the 1st. But the problem is, as you have reported numerous times, I think we're at 38 days now of 100 degrees plus, something like that. So that means this started a long time ago. So today I'm standing by a bale of hay. It may not be the prettiest bale of hay in the county, but it's a bale of hay. And it's very hard to come by, very expensive, and in short supply. You're probably noticing a lot of corn fields that are being baled. They are baling the corn stalks, corn husks, just kind of out of self-preservation and desperation. They do not have much nutrient value to them, but they put something in the cow's stomach. They kind of keep their digestion going, and then some supplement is given to give them the protein that they need. And that's kind of where we are. Grass hay is just out of the question. It's done. You can see behind me, this pasture is burnt up. We've been feeding hay for 3 weeks now. The cows don't love eating hay this time of the year. They really want to eat grass. They're kind of used to that. They're still foraging around looking for that. But at the end of the day, they're coming to this hay ring every evening. In the heat, they're staying in the shade as best they can. You know, they're made to be outside, but they're kind of like folks. You know, when you're working outside, it just takes that extra oomph out of you. Cattle, horses, they're the same way. They go out and they do what they have to do, and then they kind of get back under that shade. You had mentioned about the fire adventure that my son and I had. So back over my shoulder here, you may be able to see some hay bales of hay. That was the hay field we were working in. Just a simple little piece of metal was left in the field after some utility line work. That hay cutter just nicked it. That's all it took, was just a nick to quickly spark off a grass fire. So, you know, fortunately, my son was diligent, and he saw that as soon as it happened, got on the phone to me. We got fire called. We had some help from neighbors that brought some water wagons over. But there's a lot of that going on. I saw you report just the other day about Midlothian having grass fires. So keep your eyes open as you're out, working in the fields. Kind of keep your eyes on your neighbors there.
Yeah, there was another fire in Midlothian yesterday. Really kind of spread from north western parts of Midlothian up almost towards Cedar Hill. So it's just almost become a daily thing. And you mentioned how easy it is for one of those fires to start, and you can hear the wind. You can hear and see the wind, and that is just absolutely. I mean, it really dials everything up to 11.
Blowing.
Yep. Exactly. So there's really two things that we're dealing with here. There's the heat, and then there's the dry conditions. And I mean, it's just been we can't seem to win either way. One pattern shift we have hopefully coming in the next few days is that we'll dial up the humidity a little bit, which usually brings the air temperature down a little bit and kind of calms the fire danger a little bit. But then you have heat index, and it makes it harder for people to really be outside working. So when we kind of make that shift and it just goes from one kind of uncomfortable to another, how are you and your son and anybody else you work with keeping yourself healthy and hydrated and safe during those times?
Sure. So, big thing is we take jugs of water with us. It's easy when you're working on something to kind of get that tunnel vision of, I need to get this fixed or what have you. We're having to mentally make sure that we take breaks, that we stop what we're doing, whether we want to or not, keep some water coming in. We've got, on the truck, some portable shade. If we know we're going to be working on something for a little bit, we've got a little pop tent we can kind of put on to work under that, to kind of help get us some shade. And as breakdowns are not planned. They happen at any time of the day. But if we know that we're doing some preventative maintenance or something like that, we try to do that first thing in the morning before it gets too hot, or last thing at the end of the day in the evening when it starts cooling down on there. So we try to schedule that service work when we can out of the heat. But as you know, breakdowns happen, and sometimes you got to do that in the middle of the day. So we kind of try and do the best we can, with what we've got, and we just kind of watch over, make sure we're all drinking, enough fluids. We try and, keep some shade around us if we can. The other day we worked under a shade tree that happened to be in the field. We just pulled over under it and worked on it.
The shade can really make a difference, especially when you have low humidity. Man, under the shade, it's pretty bearable. So I'm sure that was a nice treat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And ironically, my son, he had found a button off some overalls, Crown overalls from 1910. And so we were kind of chatting while we were under that shade tree, because it's a big tree. It's been there a while, of probably folks that came before us that worked under that shade tree out in the heat. We kind of reminisced about the guy walking behind probably mules, wearing those overalls, and what happened to him that day to make him pop that button on his overalls.
That's really cool. I'm a history buff, so that's really neat. So the last question I have for you is, with all the fire danger that is out there, you have some experience with this. So what advice would you give to other folks who have large pieces of land to try to prevent those fires, or you were able to respond pretty quickly and that sort of thing. So what recommendations do you have for them to try to either keep those fire issues, the risk of those relatively low in the terms of what they can control, and then also, what would you have them be prepared for if a fire does indeed start?
So a couple of things, if you have the capability, if you've got land along a road, there's always the risk of cigarettes being thrown out, chains dragging on a trailer, a wheel blowing out and the rim sparking. So you've got lots of high risk there. If you're able to plow a fire break around that border of that field, that can help you, that can slow it down. It can jump those things, but that can slow it down until somebody can get there. If you don't have the capability of plowing that, if you're able to mow just a little strip and shorten that fodder down for that fire, kind of lower that stuff down. Now, I understand you don't want to mow much because you need what you got left for grazing for your cattle, but you might make a pass or two, along that fence. If none of that's an option, maybe you've got lots of trees and stuff like that. If you do have some kind of a water wagon, a lot of us have spray rigs, so we have nurse wagons and things like that. You don't have to really spend any money. You can just kind of homemade make you a nozzle to go on the end of your hose. You can take a cap, drill some holes in it, make kind of like a shower head kind of thing for it. Anything like that can help buy you some time until the professionals get here with professional equipment. And it may not sound like much, but a couple of minutes here or there makes a really big difference when you're talking about wind blowing and fire, blowing across there. And just I have seen, if I could, a couple of different posts and things, asking about the corn that is still in the field and it being dry and brown and a potential fire hazard. So yes, the corn is dry. We have to let it dry down before we can harvest it. Harvest is underway now. It does take time to get by to those fields. You're also seeing a lot of corn being baled up. So you've seen in Mesquite, there was a big grass fire that got into some homes and things. If you are living near a corn field, fear not, that field has not been abandoned. It will be harvested. It probably will be baled for some hay as well. And just know that your farmers are working as hard as they can to get to all of their fields, but it takes us time. We've got fields scattered, around Ellis County. Takes time to move that equipment. We have breakdowns, and that also, slows us down. And, as y'all probably know, with your shipping on Amazon and everywhere else, parts are hard to come by. Take time to get here. So we just can't run to that parts store and get what we need. It usually takes a day or two, and that slows things down just a little bit.
John Paul Dineen, thank you so very much for taking some time out talking to us. Like you said, we're getting into August, and this is, there's not a whole lot of hope out there because this is the time of year we're actually expecting this. And that it's normal. So who knows, maybe Mother Nature will send us a curveball and she will have gotten through her heat wave for the year, and maybe she'll throw us a bone. So I'll keep watching the forecast, and you keep up the good work and keep us informed. I love that, you put a lot of great information on social media and those kind of things. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this Wild Weather Wednesday segment. I'll be back next week. And, we're only going to have a few more of these segments before cooler weather actually does arrive eventually. So stay tuned, and we'll have those updates coming for you.